I'm speaking here with Kelly Cahill. She is one of a rare breed of Australians who's had a multiple witness encounter, a UFO experience of the first kind, I guess it would be. And that involves physical ground traces and actual marks on people's bodies, as well as contact with the beings themselves. So, welcome, Kelly.
Hi, David.
How are you?
Not bad.
That's good. Now, I'd like to actually start off firstly by, I think your case is very interesting in the way that it's been portrayed in the media. You've had quite a lot of media attention. Can you take us through some of the good and bad experiences or some of the issues that have raised to do with media?
Yeah, I guess I could. Actually, the only reason that I went public in the first place is thanks to another experiencer in Sydney. He had been doing a little bit of public work himself, and he said, look, there's so many of us, and you know how many there is, but no one's game to come forward simply because they've got no evidence, and here you are sitting there with all of this physical evidence, with other witnesses, something no one else has, and you're staying quiet. So basically, that was the first thing I did. It was a conference, and it went on from there. I found that I haven't had too much flack compared to what a lot of other people might have had. I've had one or two incidences where the presenter hasn't been very keen on the subject at all, but usually that's more to do with a bigoted opinion of whether UFOs exist or not, and when it comes down to the actual evidence available for the existence of UFOs, it's quite easy to stump people in the end. So, no, it's been pretty good, but it's been very, very hectic. I think that I found that once it started, it just didn't seem to stop. So it wasn't a case of doing one thing, but you know, one followed by a million things. Yeah,
but you've had pretty positive experience with the media in Australia?
Yeah, most of it has been. As I said, occasionally. I mean, I have this problem of the sceptics following me around. A particular Victorian sceptic is my problem at the moment, and he keeps jumping on the bandwagon with any of my media. And I mean, he's done some wonderful things. He said, called me a disorganised, neurotic woman because I took my handbag with me to the encounter. Mind you, they can't dump on the case; they can only dump on the person. Yeah. And yet I don't even know this guy. He's been telling the media all about me, sort of. So I'm picking up the interviews I've done, and all of a sudden this guy's name's popped up again, and he's had his little say about me. And you know, it'd be nice to meet him one day. But I've been told there's a lot of media that goes on without me now. You know, it's sort of like quite often I get told, oh, you're in the paper today, or they were talking about you on TV the other day, and they're the ones I have no control over. And
how do you feel about that, the fact that you've almost turned into an icon for the UFO scene in Australia, or particularly abductees in Australia? Well, you're almost like, an icon. I wouldn't say ambassador, but an icon.
Well, I don't know.
Do you think you get targeted both for positive and bad publicity because you are such a high-profile case?
Yeah, well, I guess so. I mean, the last creation that I heard about, Bill Chalker told me that they'd put on a television show in Sydney where the skeptics were sitting there saying that I'd given birth to an alien hybrid baby. And I'm not sure whether it was national television or not, but you know, I start thinking, you know, the stories are going to start getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm not there to defend myself. But in a lot of ways, I think it's encouraged a lot more people to come forward about their experiences. I mean, that's what I guess the whole main thing is about, is that, you know, I can't really, well, the case itself can't really be crucified, and a lot of serious people, a lot of academics, you know, a lot of scientists, a lot of interested parties are actually starting to pay serious attention to it, and you know, whereas any person like that had underground involvement in the UFO field before, they're starting to come out about it too, and a lot of people are starting to feel like, hey, there are people here, you know, I can come and tell somebody now, or you know, I found out that there's experienced support groups and I can go and meet other people like me, and I think a lot of people are coming out of the closet, and which is really, you know, it's building public acceptability up as well. So people are starting to realise, hey, there is something going on here, and maybe eventually, maybe you know, the people like governments who give grants for who give grants for research in every other field might decide to turn around and say, oh well, there's so many people calling out for belief here, maybe we ought to do something about UFO research too and actually fund something that might produce some results. So, you know, I think it can only be beneficial in the end.
With the government research, to what degree, obviously you would have heard of all the conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah, there's some good ones.
Yeah, what's your general feeling on the UFO cover-up?
I don't know, I'm not, personally I'm not much into the idea that the government's hand in hand with aliens. I don't like that at all. I do believe that there is covert military activity going on, but I think even on the same level, trying to find out more of what's going on. But I don't believe that, say, it's just your usual defence force. I mean, they opened up their archives ages ago and gave them to the researchers, and they tell everyone else to go to the researchers. But there are interested, you know, there are sort of little task forces and things that I'm pretty well certain exist, even in Australia, and they're more or less interested in, how can I say it, in gathering information.
Right.
So I don't really think that they've got answers, but I think that they want answers just as much as anyone else, you know, but I don't know. As for the American scene, well, you know, if anything happens, it happens in America, doesn't it? So I really don't know. I would say that obviously there's something going on over there. There's just too many secret documents, too many top secret documents that aren't allowed to be released from the States on the UFO topic.
Yeah.
And if they don't exist, well, why not release the whole goddamn lot? And it does, you know, it doesn't seem to happen. So, but as for the big conspiracies, and you know, I mean, sort of underground bases and aliens and humans sharing their technology together and allowing people to be abducted and all that sort of stuff, you know. I sort of try and, you know, keep my feet on the ground a bit more than that. I mean, if they prove me wrong one day, well, I'll stand there and say, my God, I was wrong. You know? But in the meantime, I sort of, I'm not so sure about that side of things.
All right, well, moving on to some of the associated phenomena like crop circles and mutilations. Now that sort of thing seems to be on the increase. Do you think that there's any link between UFOs and crop circles, or UFOs and cattle mutilations?
Well, it's really funny. I don't know if you saw that video recently that came out of the little light going around creating a crop circle.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
That was proved to be a fake.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that we've got some friends in Holland who've researched crop circles, and we know some other people, and quite often in filming crop circles that are already there, a little light will be seen spinning around the crop circle, not actually creating it, but they are seen. And I'm more inclined, I don't know, see, there's a lot of light phenomena seen in relationship to crop circles, but not necessarily UFO phenomena. I don't know if it's some sort of natural light phenomena or some sort of magnetic light phenomena from the Earth. Yeah. But I don't see it. I see it only linked with lights. You know, even, I mean, especially over in England, there's sort of, it's not, you know, dirty big triangular-shaped UFOs or big round silver spherical things that seem to be connected to it. It's light forms, and so I don't know. Maybe there is a connection, or maybe it's just a different type of phenomena. Definitely, I guess it definitely goes over the boundaries of your usual physical phenomena, just like the UFOs do. But whether there's a link or not, I don't know. Cattle mutilations. I got a good theory on this one. I don't know anything. I don't know enough, you know. But it's only a recent one that I came up with. Yeah. What I thought is, I noticed that when they were doing when they released the information on the cloning that they'd done with the sheep, I noticed that they'd taken it from the mammary gland, and then they'd actually had attempts at other soft tissue areas. And then I looked at cattle mutilations, and I thought, these are the parts that go. It's the lips, udders. It's the udders, it's the vaginal areas or the anal areas, and they're all the soft tissue areas of the body. And I thought, you know, we could have some sort of secret cloning going on here that we're not supposed to know about. And isn't there a perfect cover-up with an alien situation? You know, I mean, this is just an idea.
So soft tissues are where genetic materials often
but the way I look at it, if they're presenting us a sheep that they've already cloned, well, you know, I mean, we've known about sort of, well, there's been knowledge about this. The stealth, like the stealth in the 70s, that wasn't, and the Aurora, and basically when that was talked about, that was a whole heap of rubbish and it was a big conspiracy idea and it was a load of garbage. But eventually they let us know, which means that they've got something bigger and better. And I think it's the same with the cloning. They wouldn't have let us know that they've gone this far if that's all they'd gone, you know. And I think it's much further advanced, and I think,
Yeah, so what you're suggesting is that 10 to 15 year time lag between the military and trickle-down effect of technology to society.
Yeah, well, that's
if we're getting clone sheep now,
to hear about,
So if we've got clone sheep now, whatever they've got is 10 to 15 years ahead
exactly.
of us.
But I don't know, I just thought this, I'm probably wrong, but I thought that cattle mutilation's linked with this. Oh, well, God knows, you never know. The aliens might be cloning. But, you know, I just thought it was a good link.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. Just to finish off with, or as the last couple of questions, the spiritual evolution angle. Do you think that the UFO experiences that not only yourself but other people are having are in some way linked to our evolution, whether that be our physical evolution or our spiritual evolution?
Well, there's definitely a lot of changes in a human being. Mentally, I even think you could go as far as saying it whether it is because of the experience or it was created during the experience or has come about as an after effect, or you know, of the experience. There seems to be an expansion in mind capability towards a lot more, I guess, a lot more metaphysical things,
right,
and a lot more psychical things. And I've been through all of these myself, but you know, I look at it from two angles. You learn to adapt to those sort of things, and it sort of becomes like eating, breathing, or any other part of you. Or you know, you go the other way. You end up an absolute Fruit Loop, or you know, someone that no one else can understand because they've gone so hooty guru that you know what I mean. It's unbelievable. Or you can accept that this is, you know, these facilities have become available to you, and you can exercise them, but at the same time keep your logic and your feet on the ground, and you've got more of a chance of sort of being analytical about it and actually learning how to develop it and how to use it. And I do think that is very prominent with people who've had UFO encounters and experiences. And most people that I've met that I know for certain are bona fide experiences have had an incredible change psychically and
a heightening of
definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. Now, just to sort of close off, you're doing a few pretty interesting things with regards to the media. I understand you've got a doco coming up on Channel 7.
That's right. I'm one of a number of people actually on that documentary. It's about it's basically covering abduction cases in Australia.
In Australia, great. Yeah. That's really good.
And And
what about? We've also got this book. So if anyone's actually interested in reading Kelly's story, pretty amazing story. Just sort of get hold of this book. This is available just bookstores, the usual places.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, it came out in September last year. There should still be a few around somewhere. But no, they should still be able to find it in Kmart or Target or somewhere like that, or in some bookshops and newsagents. You've probably got more of a chance in somewhere like Angus and Robertson or something like that. Then,
Okay. And of course, you're actually in negotiations for a movie. Are we allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, I guess so. They're actually negotiating with this is actually for the book, to make a movie out of the book.
Right.
Which includes a bit more than the experience. It includes my personal life. So.
Yeah. Is this going to be a little bit like Fire in the Sky or something like that? A sort of a...
yeah, but they want to make it almost like a biography of a life. So they want to carry it on further to the work I'm doing with Exposure magazine now and everything else. You know, how everything's followed tracks and how it's had an effect on the entire life scheme of a suburban Melbourne housewife. And they're negotiating with a few networks at the moment for a telly movie. And I'm just sort of sitting back waiting. I think there's 3 potential groups of backers that they're doing deals with at the moment. So, yeah.
All right, well, that's all we have time for. Thanks very much for popping along. And, I'm sure we'll catch up with you sometime in the near future.
Okay, guys.
All right, I was speaking with Kelly. We'll be back after this break.
Hi, I'm Mark Van Engelen. I'm here for Top Secret TV at Contact 97. I'm going to be speaking to David Summers, editor of the magazine Exposure. He's come to Australia from Holland, where he had a very successful television show and his magazine in Europe. So I'd probably get David to tell us about it. So, g'day Dave, how you doing?
Good, thanks Mark. And yourself?
I'm very well, thanks.
Okay.
Now, I'd just like to know about Exposure magazine, what the topics are about, and why you came to Australia to perform it.
Well, actually, I'm Australian, native to Australia, but I've lived in Europe for 13 years.
Right.
Exposure magazine started up about 4.5 years ago. And
Is that
it's
in
been
Australia?
In Holland, in the Netherlands, yes. And we had a television show and a radio program over there for about 2.5 years, very similar to your program that you have here now in Melbourne. The basic gist of that program and the magazine really is we'll publish anything that the governments don't want you to know about. So that entails really UFOs, secret societies, the New World Order, conspiracies, but not the paranoid conspiracy theories, but conspiracies based on fact, and that's basically what we're all about trying to...
Now, before we get off why or what you do, can we talk about why you came to Australia? Because I believe there could be a little bit of a story of why you came to Australia.
Why I came to Australia?
Like the reason you took the alternative publishing and brought it
to here.
Yep.
Oh no, there was no real story about that. I split up with my wife actually, who was Dutch.
All right.
So being Australian and my whole family was out here, so I ended up moving back to Australia and continued printing out here.
So just a story, in other words, what I heard.
It's a very simple story actually.
All right,
no conspiracy involved.
That's a shame, but on with the magazine, sorry.
All right, on with the magazine. Now, as I said, we publish the gist of it's anything the governments don't want you to know about. A lot of it. We've done, like a recent article we did, for example, was on Timor, the human rights abuses over there, and about the deaths of the journalists, Greg Shackleton and his colleagues back in 1975, how the Australian government's tried to cover that up. We've done some weird and wacky, wonderful stuff on Moongate. That's the theory, which actually I believe is much along the line of fact, that NASA never went to the moon. Now, I believe personally we have been to the moon, but the situation in 1969, although it's a bit short or too long early to explain in this short time, but a lot of faked photographs from NASA, the moon landings, etc.
You've actually covered that topic in the magazine.
We've covered that twice, and actually the next issue covers it a third time, but even into greater detail again, and the photographic analysis has been done to a much deeper level.
Yeah, I saw actually what you did in the last
Yeah, I think
few
it was
on
one
that.
of the... Well, we've done that one on Top Secret Fraud. I don't know if you can get that up on the screen, but that was done last year, along with one of the very first, well, the first issue in Australia also covered Moongate and NASA's lies exposed. I don't know if you can get those up on it, but those particular issues caused a lot of controversy around the country, not just around the country in Australia, but through the United States and Europe as well.
You actually went through the shots, didn't you, and picked out
systematically,
aspects of them, yeah.
Now that's the only fall or drawback with printed material compared to film material is it's a little bit hard to explain a lot of what we're trying to get at. When we look at the videotape, for example, of the flag waving in the wind, NASA likes to deny that there's any wind on the moon. Now there's either two possibilities. With the whole Moongate stuff, there's either more on the moon than we're being told, or it's the greatest hoax filmed in Nevada since, you know,
Always
all time.
Nevada, hey?
Well, that's where they've suspected that it's been filmed. There was a movie put out in the late 70s, had O.J. Simpson in it. It was called, not Alternative 3, thinking Capricorn 1, and that was concerning a fake Mars landing. Now, a lot of people think, well, this Moongate stuff is based on that film. Well, actually, that film was based on a man's research called Bill Kaysing. And Bill Kaysing's one of the guys who has actually been pushing the Moongate conspiracy theory, yeah. And they based that film on it, but they couldn't say it was a moon landing, so they made it a Mars landing.
Alrighty, now I believe you've got an interest in secret societies. I love this topic. Could you fill the viewer in a little bit on what the secret society issue is all about?
Well, secret societies, just as in any religions, there's a lot of power plays. Secret societies, I believe, play a large role in our political arena. The manipulation of our governments, politicians, just as sort of you and I have a belief system. I'm not talking about a religion, but everybody on earth, all the viewers as well, they have a belief system. They believe in something, okay? Most of it's usually based on what we've experienced throughout our life. So too do the world elite. Now, there's various secret organisations, political organisations such as the Bilderbergers, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission. They're elite groups pushing for a new world order. Within those groups, various politicians and elite bankers, etc., are also members of various religions. And a lot of those religions or secret societies, I'm not talking about your mainstream religions, Christianity or Islam, etc., but branches of Freemasonry. Now, again, I'm not talking about your next door neighbour or your father or your uncle who's a Freemason. I'm talking about secret elite branches of the Masons, such as the Order of the Knights Templar.
Right. Now, what about the Fabians? Because
the Fabians are a good one in Australia.
If you remember, I think it was it Keating who said to Howard, "You're just another Fabian."
That's right. That was actually that was said live during the great debate with Ray Martin.
So what's your opinion on that?
Well, it's a pot calling the kettle black, really. I mean, Keating, often they call him Paul Cheating, but, you know, the man's done some good things for the country, but also there's been a lot of scandals under the table, and some of them have been exposed and others haven't been. So, you know, and he's also a member of the Fabian Society, which was based in Melbourne. Bob Hawke, who used to be Paul Keating's manager when he was in a rock band years ago, was also a Fabianist. And of course John Howard is. And it's to me, I'm not talking about these particular boys, but it's just like a lot of the secret societies. In the Queensland Police Force, there's approximately 60% members of the Lodge.
Right.
Now, for me, the interests are there. Thursday night, when the police, who are no longer police, they go along to the Lodge as a Mason or within the Brotherhood, a lot of these professional or full-time criminals who are also members of the same lodge, but they're mates. Thursday nights, Wednesday nights, they're drinking buddies.
So they're
on the streets of the
arch
arch enemies.
Exactly. In a higher organisation.
Exactly, and with Paul Keating and John Howard both being members of the very same organisation, it's like two born-again Baptists going to the very same church, you know, outside in front of everybody, they're arch enemies. Inside, they're mates, they're brothers.
Well, that's a beautiful sticky bun, but I think we'll have to have you on the show at a later date, and we'll probably discuss this in detail, I think, because that is a very interesting topic. Now, do you actually cover much on UFOs?
We cover a reasonable amount on UFOs, everything from, of course, the UFO cover-up, which I'm sure your viewers have seen before on your program. But apart from the cover-up, going into deeper, mind control, the secret weaponry, weather control, various testing, the manipulation of the UFO world too. There's a lot of absolute new age bunkum that comes out, really. We try and get rid of it and filter through all that sort of stuff. I will say one thing before we wind it up about UFOs. I always say this for the skeptics. Each and every year there's approximately 70,000 UFO reports. You only need one report, one radar report, one document from the government's own archive pertaining to a subject which doesn't exist, one fragment of a videotape or a negative of film, and one astronaut's report. Any of those official reports, one in the history of mankind to be true, that's one real UFO.
I know, we only need one.
We only need one, and there's plenty of it. I mean, we hold 2,500 hours of archive footage in Contact Network International in the archives in Queensland. As I've said, if the whole lot is faked, you only need 1 second of it to be real. The big question is not that they exist or not, but why is it being covered up? And when we really look at the, if I can just wind up on this point, if UFOs are real, they needn't be, but they are a direct threat to our political, economic and religious institutions, hence the cover-up. We would have to rewrite the Bible, we would have to rewrite the Quran, the Torah and many other ancient manuscripts, and really have a good look at ourselves about who we are, where we're coming from and where we're going.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for that, Dave. I'm afraid that we're going to have to end that there. He's got a plethora of knowledge. We'll probably have him in at TSTV in studio sometime. But that's all for David Summers and Mark from Top Secret TV in the bowels of the Civic Centre here. And here we are with Colin Norris. Colin, you've got a long name of your association, so I'm just going to have to check it. The Australian International UFO Flying Saucer Research Incorporated. Now, you're based in South Australia, I believe?
We have since 1952.
Now, I just want to introduce Colin. He's probably one of the longest researchers of the UFO phenomenon in Australia. Very widespread research. Now, we want to talk about a couple of interesting cases, one of them being of Bronte Lloyd. Now, Colin's going to tell us a little bit about this. So just tell us about what happened to Bronte Lloyd and what the outcome of his situation was.
Bronte Lloyd is a handed-down farmer, you know, grandfather and so on. And on his property over near Jamestown in South Australia, he had an encounter 11 months before the final thing that happened to him. And he was asleep in bed when entities came into the room. They laid something on his cheek, which is most unusual. Now, this man's a stable guy. His wife was in the bed as well and didn't even wake up. But 11 months later, the object came over the farm when they were in the paddock, and then his son-in-law said, I've had this, and went home to Jamestown, and he went back to his property. And when he got back, the dogs were going mad, and he then walked around the house and saw the UFO was sitting there about a cricket pitch length from him, and he got the police, came and took photographs of where the thing was. They wrote up an affidavit. He subsequently had to go to the doctor because a mark came up on his...
Yeah, now in the photo it actually shows the mark on his face. Now this is where the so-called aliens laid something on his face.
That's right, yes, they did.
Now these aliens, did they actually come through the wall as many cases, or they walked through a door?
They went through a door and they put a light on, and the dogs went mad because they were short apparently, and they must have levitated because there's no footprints from the craft on sandy soil to the house, but they put a light on in his sunroom, and when he got up to have a look, he just saw these small entities going out of the room.
But did he say what they looked like?
No, they just looked like small people, say about 6 feet, with the typical round hoods on, or helmets, or whatever you like to call it. And he watched there for a while, and it rained during the evening, and he had rang his wife to come home, but she said nope, not under the circumstances, and that thing in the morning had all water drops around on the ground.
It was a landing site.
Yeah, it was sitting there.
So we've got a landing site
on the
man
property
with a burnt face.
And the dogs, and the police, and the doctor.
Now, I think one of the points is that you would have to have nearly every report that you've got your hands on set in a linear form within your association, telling really the story of UFOs in Australia. Is that true?
Yes, it is. Everything from 1953 in the modern era, it goes from alphabetical. If in 1953 and your name is Joe Blow and you ask us, we'll look at it. If it's September of that year, we can look at it there chronologically, alphabetically, and the original affidavit or report form that you filled in, that's there, and the whole lot is tabulated, and we're even open-minded enough to take things like that's a fake. Some guys that got a motorbike out of their van came over here and did a few spins, and they say, look, there's a circle. Well, we don't fall for that because we have the Agricultural Department, the Adelaide University, and other scientific people look at stuff when it happens.
Thank you very much, Colin Norris. That was Colin Norris. You can contact him through the Air Force, so I've heard, as he said. So you ring him and keep watching Top Secret TV for more UFO information.
Okay, that's all we have time for this week. Thanks for watching. This has been Top Secret TV. I'd also like to thank all of the speakers we've had and interviewed, and I'd also like to thank Fowler and Floyd Promotions who put on Contact 97. So that's all we have time for from Camberwell Civic Centre. We'll see you next week.
Top Secret TV. Top Secret TV.